When was the last time you had a conversation with someone who didn't agree with you? Will you actually gain something from the conversation? That's what we're going to talk about in this episode. We're talking all about differing opinions, how you benefit from talking to people who disagree with you, and how our insights and experience are actually shaped. This is Two Strangers Meet, where you get to be a part of the conversation. I'm your host, Jazzy Hermione, where we talk all things life, change, and challenges, where every story matters. Your voice, your experience, let's meet. I was talking with my friend, and she was telling me about this such valuable conversation she had with one of her work friends. And they had vastly different viewpoints, like opposite ends of the spectrum, like completely opposite to each other. Except she said it was one of the most valuable conversations she's ever had. That it was so nice to have a deep conversation like this, where she was able to disagree with someone in such a respectful, polite way. And I think one of the best skills you could have is being able to have a conversation with someone who has the opposite views as you and be able to talk about this. Because if you never talk to someone with opposite views that go against you, opinions that are different, how are you ever going to shape your own opinions? Because our opinions and our values are driven by cementing them and questioning them. If you never question your values, how do you know they're actually values to you? It's only when those values are tested do you realize how important they actually are. Next time someone disagrees with you, don't let your ego come into it. Don't run away from it and think, oh, well, your opinion doesn't matter. You don't have to agree with someone to have a conversation. Sit down, have a conversation, discuss why they think that in a respectful way. I'm not telling you to go out and tell them that they're wrong, but I think it would be very, very valuable for you to sit down and just discuss your opposing opinions and not be closed-minded from it, because you don't know how much you're actually going to learn from it. And with that too, I think the whole concept of different opinions is so interesting, because even the way in people want to live their life. Like for me, my priority is travel and having kids young. They're the two things I really, really prioritize at the moment. It's crazy to see other people who are my age, my best friends, and they have completely different life plans, completely different priorities, and investing their time so differently. And it's like, for me, travel's a big thing, but then one of my other friends, she doesn't even want to go overseas. So it's this difference that no matter how similar we grew up and the experiences that we went through, we all want different things in life. So how are you actually meant to say one thing is successful over the other? How are you able to tell one person that they're better than the other person when we all have our own game that we're playing? The game of life isn't actually a game, because every single one of us has a different game. There's so many different routes we could take, and I don't think, how could you ever say that your life is a failure or you're failing when there isn't one direction, there isn't one path of life? Every single person has a different path, no matter if you're siblings, if you're cousins, if you're best friends, if you're literally a twin, you are going to have a different game that you're playing in life. And I think we can judge ourselves, we can compare ourselves to the others, but how are you meant to compare yourself to someone else? With this whole thing of comparison, I do relate to the statement that says comparison is a thief of joy. And I do wholeheartedly agree in that. However, I also understand other opinions that say comparison is actually beneficial. And if you compare yourself to others, you're able to see where you are. And if you compare yourself to others who have the things you want, it can give you a blueprint of the steps you need to take to get to that point. So it's like, yes, I wholeheartedly believe comparison's the thief of joy. If you're making your self-worth dependent on having a certain thing that someone else has, I don't think you can really compare yourself to someone else. It's comparing apples to oranges. Like, no matter how similar you grew up, you're going to have different lives. You're going to have different paths. And it's really hard to say they're going better than you, because it's just a different timeline. In a way, you're on your own path. But at the same time, I do see the benefit when you put it like finding the differences so you know where you're lacking and where you need to work on in a way. Despite us all being so similar and all being a human body at the end of the day, we have such different paths. One of my favorite quotes of all time is, "You're on your own timeline, and your timeline is no one else's." That's something that when I am comparing myself to others, which is resulting in me questioning my self-worth and my success as a person and my ability to succeed and reach my goals, I really come back to this and go that my timeline is my timeline. No one can tell you what timeline you should be on and what a successful road is, and that my time will come when it's perfect. And kind of just surrendering in that point of letting go and like not trying to control every single day and every single year. It's going to happen when it happens. It's not something you can always control. Yes, to some degrees you can work really hard to your goals, but I do believe in this universe, timing, divine timing, whatever you want to call it, that there will be a perfect time. And I think when that success mark hits, or when you hit that goal, you'll hit it in the most perfect time for you. I don't think that can just be caged down to age, to a year, to a specific date. It's going to happen when it's the perfect time for you personally. See, all about differing opinions here. This is why you have conversations. This is why I made Two Strangers Meet, because I wanted to have these conversations. I wanted to share different opinions. I wanted to have different people argue with each other and contradict each other, because that's where we get our insights. That's where we learn. We learn when people share their differing opinions. It's the whole point of this. It's meeting two people together and seeing what's similar, what's different, and how we can develop and express our emotions more and our opinions more by questioning them. If we don't question our opinions, how can we get deeper? The only way we can flesh out these ideas, flesh out these concepts, is by having conversations with a wide variety of people. And that's what I'm bringing to you in this space, showing you there's so many other options that you haven't explored yet, that you could think about, that may alter your opinion. No opinion is right or wrong. Every single one of us has an opinion, and it's right for us. And I don't think you can say an opinion's wrong per se. It's maybe wrong to you, but it's not wrong to that person. So we're creating a space where it is safe to tell your opinion. It is safe to show the different options out there. It's safe for you to question and battle and just think. If one person walks away from here and thinks to themselves and talks and questions something, that's what I want. All I want from this podcast is for someone to know that they are capable of more. I want to show them all the different opinions and the different ways of life. And if I don't even want them to change, I just want them to go and question why they believe what they believe. Because I just want people to really get to know themselves. It's so easy to get swept away with what the media says and what social media says and the people around you, that you never actually give yourself 5 minutes to think about why you think that way. And the reason we think that way is shaped by the people around us. So it's an opportunity for you to sit back for just 5 minutes, for 2 minutes, for 1 minute. I don't care how long, but I want you to sit there and think, why do I feel this way? Why do I think like that? Why is this important to me? Because the only way we're going to know ourselves more is by doing that. And the only way we can quote unquote succeed in the life that we're going for, the life that we've chosen personally, is by getting to know ourselves the most. And I think the best relationship you can have in life is the one with yourself. You always say that your partner knows you better than yourself. And that's probably because you spend so much time with that partner. But how often do you spend time with yourself, getting to know yourself, getting to know your thoughts and the way of your thinking? Because from an outside perspective, they're able to see exactly what led to you thinking this way. But for yourself, you don't have that outside perspective that you can get caught up in it and not actually know why you think this way. And you can realize that a lot of the opinions and beliefs you have are just given to you because that's what you learnt growing up. And if you don't give yourself time to question and rewrite these, you're just a simple reflection of the people around you in a way. And that was a massive tangent, to be completely honest. But I was just going to talk about the whole concept of averages. And what this came down to was I was having a conversation with someone about my goals in life. And I set a goal. And they said, that is like so much higher than what the average is. And when I read the statistic of the average, for me, it didn't make sense. It was like, how is that even the average? How is that the statistic? But it also meant nothing to me in a way. Like, it was simply a number. It could have been any number on the screen and it still wouldn't mean anything to me. Because for me, I can compare. I know we said not to compare, but like the people, I benchmark myself against the people around me and the people I know. That number is just completely strange. It doesn't have weight to me. I compare myself to my closest people in my circle or in the general surroundings. That your average is simply a depiction of the average of the people who surround you that you see on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. It's not, your average means nothing to you when it talks about like the average of Australia. Like the average of Australia holds less meaning to you than the average of your workplace, because you see these people at work every single day. That becomes your normal. That becomes what you think the whole of society is like. And for me, my workplace has children where my friends has no children. That for me, I think you have children younger, where that other person who isn't surrounding themselves with people who have children think it's a much later thing in life. And then you look at the average statistic and it's like 30 or something over whatever age you have kids. I have no idea. Please don't quote me on that. But it's just that weird concept that in our brains we have figured out an average for ourselves and we wholeheartedly believe that. And then we actually look at what the proper average is and it can be vastly different. But at the same time, that still in my head, I'm wired to think that the average age for a kid is like 25, 26, 27. Even though I know that's statistically not correct, it is correct for me because my sample size for that equation is the people in my life, the people that I know. And it's so much easier to benchmark yourself across people you know as opposed to a statistic online, if that makes any sense. It's something that I've never really considered before, is that the standards in your life are simply a reflection of the people around you. That one person may think a certain amount of money in a bank account is super high, while another person may think it's really low because they're comparing it to the people that surround them, that they see every day. And I don't know where my opinion stands on this, but I don't know what one's better. Do you compare yourself and make the benchmark and the standard and the average based on the people you know, or do you do it of the wider population? Does that make your goals more realistic or unrealistic? Should I work less hard and like be easier on myself because what I want is statistically easier than I thought I could do? Like I'm better than the average in a way? I don't know. How do you gauge this? Because does the average even matter at the end of the day? Is the average statistic of certain life milestones just a simple way of giving you a general guide of where it could be in your life? It's an educated guess of that's probably the age you would do it if you were average. But then also average has such negative connotations. When someone tells me, oh, you're an average person, I don't want to be average, I want to be extraordinary. I would hate to be being called average. So that's another thing to question is, why does getting called average and being average and doing things at the average time affect me so much? Why I would hate to be called average or do something later in life after than the average age. Like that to me feels like a failure, being average. See, these are all questions that you can ask yourself and get better, like get you to know yourself better with. It's only questioning these things that open up these can of worms for you. But with all of these conversations that we're having right now, and yes, it's just me simply talking into a mic right now, but I want you to be a part of the conversation. I want you to fight with me in the comments. I want you to tell me the things that you don't believe with. I want you to tell me your different opinions. Because like I said, we grow and evolve every single day and our opinions change, but they only change when you start questioning them. And talking to someone who has opposite values to you is a great way to start strengthening your own values and opinions. So please leave a comment below what you think about everything I've talked about today. And next week's episode, I don't know what we're going to talk about yet. Usually I get my inspo from conversations I've had, from posts I see, just from general life. So leave in the comments too if there's any specific topics you want me to talk about. So make sure you hit follow so you don't miss next week's episode, because I know it's going to be another juicy conversation where we can contest all our beliefs.